Hello and welcome to another episode of Acceptable Madness. My name is Scott McKinney, and this podcast is it's for people who struggle with mental illness and depression and anxiety and all that other shit. So, first off, for those of you that like to listen the day that I post this, I'd like to apologize for this being late. Essentially, what happened at work is my manager's mom died, and so she's been out on bereavement, and then she took vacation, and then she's taking a leave of absence. So, all in all, she's going to be gone for 5 weeks. So I'm working a bunch of overtime, and it's been hard to figure out a schedule whenever I can actually record this uninterrupted while I am living with other people. So that doesn't matter now. I am here to talk about some mental health shit. Dive into it. And honestly, I'm really excited to be doing it. Just pumped. And I mean that. I'm not, it seems like sarcasm because of how I was saying it and because that's not something that I would typically say, but I'd really like to stress that I really like recording this podcast. I think that it really gives me a good outlet, and I think that it could provide some valuable thoughts for other people who are struggling with it. And that's why I do it. I really like it. And although I really don't think it's that big a deal, I recently hit the I can't speak today apparently, but I hit the 1 year milestone for this bad boy. Where I think the first episode was actually posted in October of 2018. And I think it was October 7th, but don't quote me on that. But the reason that I'm not at 52 episodes is because I recorded the episodes bi-weekly at first, so I was doing one every other week. For the first 8, I think. But now I'm at a year of this. And the reason I don't think it's a big deal is, look, I think it's great to do something and follow through with it, but it doesn't feel like I've been working on this for a year, not for a lack of trying and not for a lack of commitment, but rather because I really like it. It's fun. I think it's really fun. And I think it's basically a conversation that is worth having. And that sounds weird, but for anyone that's listening, it's not, it really feels like I'm just talking to you. It's not like I'm just talking for the sake of talking. It feels like I'm just, I don't know, having a conversation, and it feels like a really, really personal thing. Now, to explain why I'm even bringing that up in the first place and why, why I have that thought process, this episode, I want to talk about just enjoying stuff and excitement and finding things to love and be excited about in life. Because, man, it can make you happy in a way that I didn't really know was possible. And so I'd like to elaborate on that. So my job is not, I don't dislike it. I don't love it. I would not like for it to become my full-time career for until I retire. I don't want that. And I hope my manager is not listening to this episode. But just being totally candid, that's the truth. I see myself doing other stuff. I have a field in marketing, but currently I'm the interim manager of a deli. And although I have no disrespect for anybody that works in the deli or works in that type of position, because honestly, anyone that has a job anywhere is making an impact in some way, somewhere. So it's not like I have any disrespect or lack of love for those people, but it's not what I want. I went to college for marketing, and I really like it. I have a lot of fun, especially with the Adobe package, as I'm recording this in Adobe Audition. And more than that, I've really been trying to improve my skills in some of the other Adobe software, like Photoshop, which I'm sure you're familiar with, Illustrator, which is more made for like a logo design or single images, or I guess images can be confusing because that's also Photoshop, but basically logo design or making, I don't know, like objects. Like you can make a snowman. I don't know, but it's been a lot of fun to experiment with that. And I also like Premiere Pro, which is for video editing, and After Effects is one that I'd like to hit a little bit more, but I don't know. I'm cataloging the Adobe package. This is not a sponsored episode, and I'd like to make that clear. But I've been using them all a lot because although I do this podcast and although I like to write and I operate my own website and social media, even though I've really been slacking on that recently, but I wanted something that that a future employer could see and it would be representative of my skill set in a way that would benefit me and getting a job. So I really like Illustrator, and I've been creating a lot of like fake logos and following some online tutorials and really trying to soak in as much information as I possibly can. Now I know what you're thinking, Scott, what does this have to do with anything? Well, let me explain. The reason that I like Illustrator is, I mean, that's not really even important, but I think it's a really good way to dive into creativity. I think even doing a tutorial and figuring it out, it's basically like solving your own puzzle and trying to figure out how something works, and getting the finished product is wonderful. It's like cooking. Like I really like cooking, and my favorite food is burgers. So I like experimenting with all forms of meat and in all forms of ingredients, and I like to try to make thematic burgers based on something. So like a Hawaiian burger, like, I don't know, but I'll try to do all that stuff. And although it might not always turn out perfect, the finished product is just a satisfying thing where I will always find much more fulfillment in the meal that I make myself, even if it's a subpar meal, than a meal that I could ever get at a restaurant. And now I know that that's not everybody's thought process, and that might just be mine. And I think Alex feels the same way, but I don't want to speak for her. I think that shows a little bit of my personality. But so Illustrator has just been a lot of fun. And so while I'm at work and I have, I work nonstop. I'm paid overtime, and I was kind of told to work as much as I need to make sure that the deli doesn't fall apart. And the whole time, the thing that keeps pushing me forward is just excitement for different things. It's not an excitement to keep the deli from falling apart, because truthfully, I don't care. Like, I don't have this passion for it. But I couldn't wait to come home today and record this podcast. I was thrilled. I was upset at myself for letting it be late, because I know that I want to adhere to a stricter schedule and be more reliable. So I was a little upset about that. But I mean, life happens, and sometimes it's not always perfect. And I try not to have like a backlog of these things or a bunch of pre-recorded episodes, because I don't want them to get stale or be off topic or, I don't know. You never, for me, I never know what I want to talk about until I'm here. And now I just sit down and I'm like, okay, well, great. This is going to be the topic. In the beginning, I had a harder time picking it, but now it's a little bit more easy. But I was pumped. I couldn't wait to get home to do it. And currently I'm doing it, and I have this stupid grin on my face, and I don't understand why. And that doesn't seem like the kind of trait that someone suffering from depression and other mental illness would have, is a stupid grin once they get home from a long day at work. For any reason. Like, having that grin is I'm calling it a stupid grin, but I don't know, if you have one for any reason, that's good, because it's just one more bright light. Just that one moment of happiness. But I was excited to come home for it. And also, after I'm done with this, I can't wait to... Alex doesn't know yet, but I got some ingredients after work, and I'm going to surprise her with... I'm going to try my hand at some homemade mac and cheese, but I'm going to do it with a little bit of a twist. And I can't wait to do that. And after that, I'm going to work on Illustrator, and I'm going to make a new logo using new techniques. And after working, I started at 6 a.m. today, so I was up at like 4:30 to shower and everything. And after all that, I normally would be exhausted. I haven't been getting enough sleep, even though I harp on that so much. It's so much harder to do it in practice than it is to just say get enough sleep. But I'm not exhausted like I thought I would be, and truthfully, I think I should be. And I think it's just completely driven by just excitement for whatever I have coming up. Like, I've planned these things for myself that I'm thrilled about. I plan to record the podcast. I didn't plan, but I decided that I was going to surprise Alex with something to make her a little happier when she gets home from class. And I can't wait for Illustrator. And even I've been playing a lot of Super Smash Brothers on the Nintendo Switch. And if I decide that I want to do that, like if I can find time for it, then that will make me happy too. And maybe all of this is based on the fact that I've started to begin the process of, because Alex is graduating soon, we're trying to figure out a place that we're going to be moving in the future where both of us can find careers in our respective fields. And so I'm thrilled about that because although I don't know, I don't have to keep defending myself, but I don't love the deli. I don't hate it, but it's not what I want to do. So I can't wait to go into the workspace and in the, and do what I want to do, which is, after discovering all this excitement, it's probably content creation, which is not surprising if you follow the other stuff that I'm doing, whether that's some weird ass writing that I've done or just the videos, which, man, it sucks because I have these videos that I think some of them are really good. I still think that The Ugly Be Gone holds up pretty well. I think that Breaking Brad was a really good, really good video. But then I also have some called The Revolutionary Stool Removal Technique. And it's literally me like fisting a cantaloupe in the video, and that's not something I can show an employer. So it's a real bummer because I can't decide if I want to use my YouTube channel as something for my portfolio, or if I should like completely just make my page private while I'm researching jobs. But I figure if I apply somewhere and they look at my YouTube channel, they will see that video and they will not hire me, but I think I will make somebody's day. Which reminds me, as a tangent, I applied to Facebook a while back, and I had only at that moment in time really started trying my hand at writing. And I applied to an internship at Facebook, so good fucking luck. But I applied, and they wanted a writing sample, and I sent them one of the first things I had written after I had kind of discovered my interest in it, and it was called Scott the Handsome Lumberjack. And I think part 1 is up on my website if you're curious, but it's literally all about me, well, not me, but Scott, going into the woods and trying to protect the woods from an evil peanut butter bunny army. And he did it by eating them and doing whatever he had to do. And I sent that, and I never heard back from Facebook, unsurprisingly, and I didn't think I was going to hear back from them. But I don't know. I hope that some recruiter somewhere saw that and read it, and while discarding my resume for obvious reasons, I hope they laughed a lot about it. But I don't know. I mean, so many things have changed for me in the past, like, for fuck's sake, even the past year. I'm sure that if you've listened from the start, you can hear that difference in confidence. And I think a big thing is I have become a lot more confident. And I don't know what the real cause for that is. I think it's a mix of things. I mean, at work, I literally was thrown into a management position, kind of, like, that I didn't sign up for, really. And I kind of just went with it, so I became more confident in work that way. The podcast, I don't care who listens to it. I mean, I hope people listen to it and can find value, but if I say some embarrassing thing here, I have no problem with that. And I hope that it can be used as a learning, like, thought exercise, as opposed to criticism towards me. But hey, if you want to criticize and that's what makes you happy, then I don't give a shit about that either, because everybody's got their things, I guess. But a year ago, it was really hard, even for this podcast, something that I knew I wanted to do, but I didn't really know why yet. I didn't get excited about doing it at home. I think that's why I did it bi-weekly, was because I was really nervous about what kind of response it would get, and if someone would find it and think that I was being like an asshole or crude or very far off, or I don't know. I didn't see myself, and I still really kind of don't see myself as some kind of authority in mental health, but I don't think you need to be an authority in mental health to try to share wisdom and experiences that you have, because I think anyone can do it. But I don't know what's changed, but a year ago I know that I would have a really hard time, even if I knew I wanted to do something when I got home, like writing. Like I was always excited about it. I always had like this impossibly difficult time finding the energy and forcing myself to sit down and really do it. Now, what I will say, as anyone that struggles with depression and all that shit would know, at least, I guess it's different for everyone, but for me in particular, it really kind of comes in waves. So there are some times when I feel absolutely spectacular, kind of like right now. And there are other times where I feel really, really down in the dumps. And it comes in cycles. It's basically a monthly cycle, which I've talked about before. But whenever I'm in like a depressive fit, I do not think I would have the ability to come home and find the energy to work on something. I think I would come home and throw on a TV show that I have no interest in and just sit there, and with like my eyes glazed over, I would just stare at the screen. And or like YouTube or something. But I would find some way to, in my eyes, I would be wasting my time. And so obviously circumstances change, and obviously like there are all sorts of things, and people respond to everything differently, and everybody's brain works differently. So there's no like standard for this kind of thing. But what I do think is important regardless is even if you're having a really bad day, if you can find one thing to look forward to. And that's not a concept that's new to this podcast, but it's one that I really, really, really think is important, and I'm learning more and more every day that it is important. If you can find one thing that excites you, that you can like thrust you into the next day, you're golden. And if you haven't found it, it's a bitch. But work really hard to find it. And sometimes it can be really hard to find that thing that makes you excited because your brain is telling you to hate everything and just be miserable all the time. So it can be absolutely like devastating because you want to find this thing that you can hold on to, but you can't. It's like it doesn't exist. And I felt that way for a long time. And honestly, even though I have these things that I love doing, like writing and this podcast and YouTube and blah, 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 it can still be really hard for me to find excitement in it too. And those are the times that I think I feel the worst. Because for me, I found things that I know I'm passionate about, but I can't get passionate about them in that moment. Like, I loved writing, but I haven't done it in probably 2 weeks, which is a really long time for me. Because I do it all the time, and it's not because I like writing less. I kind of got burnt out, which for me is part of the reason that I have so many different hobbies that I pursue and so many different activities that I like to do. But I just got burned out from it. And for a little while there, I was absolutely mortified because it was like if that excitement and passion didn't come back, then I'd be in the same spot that I was 2 years ago, a year ago, where I wouldn't have anything that I could get excited about when I got home. And that really terrified the shit out of me. Like, absolutely, like, just horrifying. Because I don't know, it's like you find something to hold on to in life, and then the fear that it's just going to get ripped away is not one that I wish on anyone. But for me, I for like a week there, I went through that, and I was like, well, I don't want to write, and I don't want to do videos right now, but I don't know what to do. And then I just kind of like became complacent for a little while, and I watched TV shows I didn't care about. I played video games I didn't want to play. I don't know. I did all this stuff that I was never like fulfilled by it. I just showed up and did it. And that's that for me is like my low point. Like complacency for me is the absolute fear, because I never want to get to a point where I am not excited to do anything. Now I know I will hit that point again, time and time again, because of burnout, because of change of interests, because of opportunity to pursue your interests. Like there's always going to be things that stop you from being able to do whatever it is that you want to do. And so I follow a couple subreddits about writing, and I may have unfollowed them because it's always the same posts, and that kind of frustrated me. But for the longest time, the only posts that I would see on this podcast, on that subreddit, were posts about how do you find time for writing? Which is such a straightforward, simple question. But every time I saw it, not to sound insensitive, it kind of infuriated me. Because, like, if you can't find time for something, does it really mean that you're passionate about it? And maybe that's my own skewed view of passion, because I can be a very passionate and driven person. And I know some other people, even if they're passionate about it, they may not have the same level of drive. Or, like, I don't know, how do I say this so I don't sound like an arrogant cunt? They might not have the same kind of, like, I don't know, ambition to push forward quicker. Like, I get really impatient. So honestly, the impatience is a huge flaw for me. So what I do is I find something that I like and I push forward. And so, like, for what that does for me is I figured out that I like writing and I was excited about it. And I wrote, like, a whole book in a few months. And other people are talking about, like, I've been writing this idea for, like, 10 years and I haven't gotten past the first chapter. But I'm in love with writing and I can't wait to do it. And I have this amazing idea, but I can't get past the first chapter. And I don't know. It's weird because it makes me think that, like, maybe that's not your thing, you know? Like, maybe there's something else out there. Not to say that you're a bad writer, not to say that your contribution to the written language wouldn't be beneficial, as I say that in the most pretentious way I possibly can. I don't know, whatever. But it's not to say that their contribution would be bad, and it's not to say that the skill behind it would be bad, or that any part of it would be bad, because I think anybody writing or doing anything in the creative space is such a good idea. Even someone that's not creative, even if you're going to take, like, a mold of something, like a coloring book, and you're going to fill it in with the exact colors that it tells you to, I still think that can be a very creative and cathartic experience. Because some people experience creativity differently. People experience everything differently. But I always think, because when someone asks, like, how do you find time for writing? For me, it's like I'm, like, adamant. I just get so excited about what I'm doing that I want to commit more time to it. And I want to find time. Like, I'll cancel other plans to do it. And maybe that makes me a douchebag. But, like, I really, really commit to it. And I commit to it. And so my excitement is something that really pushes me. And whenever I have something that I'm excited about and I can think about while I'm doing something that's less exciting, like working a job that you don't necessarily love, or like how you're sleep deprived and you need more sleep, but you still need something to push you through the day, because if you take a nap, your sleep schedule is going to get more fucked up. There's always something to be excited for. And if there's not, there's a limitless number of things that you can look at to get excited about and maybe find something that you like. Like, if you strive to get better at something, then find something incredibly technical that takes a long time to master. If you really like puzzles, figure out how to solve a Rubik's Cube using the algorithm in like a minute, or like start coding or something. And if you really, really, really like, I don't know, just more like meticulous tasks that are, I don't know, just repetitive in nature, look at something more hands-on that you can do kind of in the background, like knitting or sewing or something like that, in which you still have like a creative outlet, but it's in a different type of way, or it's utilized differently than like writing or something else. Because I don't know, like writing for me is something that I have to be completely committed to, or like I have to be thinking about it. I can listen to music, but at first I could only listen to like classical, and then eventually I graduated to like being able to listen to more narrative driven songs. Not that I pay attention to the lyrics, but it's something that doesn't distract me. But so I have to be like completely focused on it. But I don't know, maybe you just get excited about, like, let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you have a fireplace in your house. Well, no, fireplaces are fancy as shit. Imagine you do not have a fireplace in your house, because I want this picture to be like, I don't know, something that at least I can relate to right now. And imagine you're at work and you have a long day, and you're getting out an hour late, and you're coming home. The weather is pretty shit. It's kind of chilly, and you didn't bring your coat to work that day, so you're very chilly, and you're driving home, and your heater in your car isn't working. So you come home after like a 20-minute drive in traffic, and you're frozen to the core. You had a long day at work. You're tired. You're exhausted. You know that in a few hours you have to wake back up. Now, if you take all of what I just said and that's what you think about, you're fucked. You're going to go home, you're going to curl up under your blanket, and you're going to fall asleep. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, because people need sleep, people need comfort. And if that's the kind of thing that'll comfort you after a long day, then that's exactly what you need to do. But if you take that exact same image that I just painted, and instead you think about, well, when I get home from work, let's say this person has a nice cup of hot chocolate. They've already been thinking about it. It's just something simple, like, I don't know, like one of those hot chocolate packets with little marshmallows in it. They're thinking about that. They're thinking about a particular fuzzy blanket that they have with like a dog on it. Golden retriever, I don't know. But it's super fuzzy. You got it for Christmas last year. And it's one that, like, if you had to choose a blanket, that's the one you're going to choose. And you can go home and sit in some chair and have this blanket next to you. You got a cup of hot chocolate. And in your hands, you have like a book. Or you have, I don't know, knitting needles and some yarn. Or you have a controller and you're playing some video games. Something. And maybe that hot chocolate turns to beer for some of you, which, as long as you're using it responsibly, that's fine. I don't care. And maybe that blanket turns to an ice bath after going to the gym to get some of that frustration out. And I don't know, maybe that book turns into anime. I don't know, I'm just making shit up. But like, you get the point that I'm trying to make, which is that, yeah, there can be a lot of shit in a day, and it's stuff that, don't get me wrong, I'm no optimist now. Nothing's changed. I just had a good day, which I hope everybody else did too. But I was just excited to come home and work on my stuff. And who knows, tomorrow I could come home and just be absolutely, like, downright miserable. But tomorrow's a new day, and maybe I'll be able to find something else to be excited about too. But if you can find something that you can just kind of hone in all of your hope on, and you can find that thing daily, then I really think you're going to be in a better spot. Because I know that's something that I do. If I'm having a hard time or a hard day, I'm just thinking about what's coming up. Like, what exciting thing is coming up next? Is it going to be going to a corn maze with my family, which I did last week? Is it going to be having a date night with Alex, which I did a few days ago? And we had a lot of fun. We went to dinner, and then we went to a place called Claytopia, which is like you go in and paint ceramics. And it was funny because I finished way earlier, and I I picked a gnome and I basically like splattered color on it. It's going to look terrible. It's not glazed yet, but when it is, I'll put it on Instagram. But I think mine looks terrible. And Alex's was like a little cat with a hat. And I named her cat Spooky, and she named my gnome Nomi. Creative names, I know. I'm pretty proud of it. That's why I'm a writer. And but it was just fun, and that's what I had to look forward to. Like I had to work earlier that day, and today is I think day 7 in a row for me at work. And like that sucks. I don't wish that on anyone. I know a lot of people have to deal with it, and I know it's honestly a regular thing for people, but it's unfortunate. Tomorrow's going to be day 8, and then happily I have 1 day off before I'll probably have to do another like 10-day stretch or some shit. But I don't know. Nothing's always perfect. Like, that's a really stupid sentence. Basically, nothing's perfect. And stuff's going to change all over the place. But just try to find something you can look forward to. If it's that cup of hot chocolate, if it's just getting off your feet because you've been standing all day, if it's going on a treadmill, if it's going home and playing with your kids, which is not something I can experience yet because I am very far from ready for kids. Going home to see your wife or girlfriend or boyfriend or husband or whomever you're affiliated with. As I make relationships sound like a business, that's good. That's a way to stay personable. Good job, Scott. 10 out of 10. Great podcast host. No matter what it is, just try to figure it out. And try not to bring that stress or, if you have a bad mood, try not to bring that home. Would be my thought. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I vent and I bitch to Alex all the time because I can't keep it inside. But I do everything in my power to not let how I feel after a given day, especially if it's a bad day, like, affect how Alex and I communicate. Because if you let it, it'll seep in and it'll make both of you miserable. So, yeah. I don't know. I feel like this episode, it's kind of all over the place, but that's probably the sleep deprivation talking. But I just try to find something you like. I hope it's my podcast. So please subscribe. And I'm just kidding. I don't care. But I mean, I do hope you like it. But I hope you can find something every day that you can come home to and enjoy. Take a moment outside of the world and just try to enjoy life. So, thank you for listening. I enjoy talking to you. I think it's great. Sometimes I wish someone could talk back, but that's why I get a guest once every 20 episodes. So, thanks for listening. I hope you have a great day.